My guest today is Hedda Mjøen, a writer and director from Oslo, Norway. Now, she is known for confronting controversial and morally charged subjects in her work, from racism and religion to sexual violence and mental illness. Now, with her Oscar qualified short Mercy, she does not offer easy answers, but instead challenges the audience to step into the lead character's shoes, leaving them with lingering questions about instinct, conscious, and moral uncertainty. Now, the film premiered at the 48th Norwegian Short Film Festival, where it won the Oscar qualifying Best Norwegian Short Film, propelling it into the conversation for the 98th Academy Awards. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer, director Hedda Mjøen and her Oscar qualified short film, Mercy, to the show. Welcome, Hedda.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I am so honored to have you here today because you have created a very, very powerful film, but a very powerful subject matter that I don't think I've seen anyone interpret this type of thing before. But I am so glad that you were the one to do it. So, where in the world did the idea of this story come from?
Wow, thank you so much. So this is a story about what you do when you have a good friend who is accused of doing something unspeakable, and what happens, when your friendship and loyalty collides with your moral conviction. And so this story comes. It's actually inspired by a true story. I have a friend who some years ago was in this exact situation. She had a friend who was accused of rape, and then she was, having to decide, should she stay his friend or should she cut all ties with him. And actually, I invited this woman to my house for a dinner party at one point, and she was very open with all the other guests and told them about her dilemma, and that she felt that she needed to support her friend because he was alone and he was desperate. And even though she didn't want to pick a side in the situation, she felt that she should support him. And this, sparked this huge argument around the table. And she was attacked from all sides, with people saying she wasn't a feminist, she couldn't, she was, doing the morally completely wrong thing by defending him instead of defending the survivors, the accusers. And she tried to defend herself. And it was just a very interesting thing to witness as a friend standing there and seeing this argument unfold in front of me. And that sparked the idea for making a film about that, because I see that it triggers so many emotions and strong opinions, this topic. And I mean, of course it does, but it was also interesting to see that it does that amongst a group that are not even, connected to or involved in the case. People have so much strong emotions about this topic. And so I
They
felt that
do.
it was important to do something about that.
Yeah, they do it. I know that in America, these types of accusations are very common, and one does not need any evidence. And many times these accusations are created simply to damage one's reputation. Um, and in this film, why was it important to keep the allegations in the neutral zone in this film?
I just felt that it was for me, the interesting part. I mean, there's so much to discuss, of course, about this topic, and it's very important to get these cases up and to talk about them, and to open up this conversation from all kinds of perspectives. But for me, the interesting perspective from the friend point of view was not told. So that was something that I wanted, and for us to understand the way she feels and be, in her shoes when she doesn't know what happened. She doesn't know if he really did it or not. She just feels for him and feels that she should kind of support him in a way. And to be with her in that dilemma, it was important not to disclose whether he was actually guilty or not, because you can't know that. And if you would know that, then you wouldn't side with her, you wouldn't understand her point of view, I don't think.
You know, when I watch this scene, I mean, when I watch this film, and it was the sauna scene that was so powerful. And I felt so bad for the lead character because I know how she feels. You know, it's like when I'm watching film. I'm watching films with a different eye, with a different objective. You know, people have their opinions about things, but in this film, you bring up a moral dilemma about choosing sides. And this is an argument I've had with other people. Nobody wants to look at the overall picture subjectively anymore. The thought of having an intelligent conversation is very, very hard to find today. And you bring up the elements in the dialogue about like things like consent, as well as those who say they denied consent. You even show an element here where does alcohol play a factor in what is actual consent or under the influence of consent? And when I'm looking at the argument in the sauna, it with the lead character, I mean, I felt so much frustration because you have all of these other women, you know, spouting off their own opinion, even though they don't know any facts about the case. They go by with what they hear. It's like being on social media, you know? And so I felt so bad for the lead character because she's trying to be neutral and to be open and to realize and hopefully that the old term innocent until proven guilty is still valid today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, then I think I got my point across. If that's all, I mean, if that's what you see, that's perfect. I think it is a really difficult topic because I also, you know, when I wrote all this conversation or this argument with all these women, I kind of understand everyone's point of view. I kind of side with all of them, and you know, of course, including the main character. I see their point. They make a valid point. You know that it's important to trust people when they open up about something that happened to them, and maybe you know there's a situation with a more powerful character that they have experienced something bad with. It's important to kind of be open and listen to them and trust that they want you know to tell their story from a good place. So it's very, I see that point, and I see of course also this you know point about you know stand up for the women in these situations and stuff like that. But I also see the point of you know that Guro is making, that isn't it, could I be both? Could I be everything? Do I have to pick a side in this case? Could I just be a friend in this situation? Would that be also a morally right thing to do? And so it's, but to me this is an impossible choice, you know. And that's also what I wanted to show with this whole film, and especially with that scene. It's that she's put in an impossible choice because she suddenly has to decide between being you know a good person for you know standing up with the women, or a good person standing up for a friend. And it's uh, and I even now I'm not sure what's the right thing to do for her. And is it even possible to live by this ideal of innocent until proven guilty anymore? I mean, it's that's, of course that is the right thing to do, but it's you know the society makes this very difficult to live by. And I
It
also want to mirror like all the different. I also wanted to mirror all the different you know perspectives that, like you say, that comes through social media, and have all the women in the sauna be like a different point of view, and so have them all come together for, because usually you only get to see one perspective and discuss with one person about their issue or their issues or their perspectives. And here you have all of them at the same time, and then you see how chaotic it is.
that's
So and
I noticed the yeah, and it was the chaos that was really disturbing because you have the one woman who literally said, "Well, I can't be your friend anymore." And then pronounce her name for me. How do you is it Guro?
yeah, it's almost like guru. It's a
Okay.
very normal name in Norway, but guru, yeah, yes.
Okay, so And when that other woman said, "Well, I just can't be your friend anymore," and she goes, "I'm fine with that." And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, because in a way, the woman that was, when you're watching the film, it's the woman on the left in the corner of the sauna, and she had very, very strong opinions. But when I listened to her opinions, they're only based on hearsay, no facts whatsoever, which goes back to today's media, things we read on social media. And I had earlier this year, I had interviewed the most famous lawyer in America. And and my question to him was, um, since the old saying was you're innocent until proven guilty, has it become now you are guilty until proven innocent? He said, yes, it has switched. He goes, because of the way the media reacts, because of the power of social media, basically you're guilty until you can prove you're innocent. And
Wow, that's
that's how
interesting.
I looked at your film.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
But I
Well,
want to
yeah.
I want to ask you something because I caught uh, Guro's tattoo, the word grace. Was that a metaphor or the action that we should all extend to those who are accused but not found guilty as of yet?
Well, what's interesting about that tattoo, I just have to mention, is that that is a real tattoo. And I didn't know that she had that tattoo until we shot the scene. And so, yeah, so in Norwegian, grace and mercy is translated to the same word. So that, it still means kind of in a way, grace is the same as mercy in Norwegian. And so it was just amazing to me when we sat there and I said, okay, so now, take off your shirt with your back towards us, towards the camera. And I just see this big grace tattoo on her back. And I was just stunned. And then, we did the take and I said, what is that? And she said, oh, didn't you know I had this tattoo all along? No, I didn't. So it was just like a really happy coincidence. And for me, both mercy and grace, refers to her predicament because she thinks that she should show this guy mercy. And that's the way to be a good person. Uh, and the women or the other women, her friends in the sauna, thinks that she should show mercy to the accusers, and so it's all about who deserves it and why, and can you show many people mercy at the same time, or do you have to pick a side? And so I just felt that this was, yeah, an interesting word. And so when grace came up, that was just like insane to me and really made everything perfect in a way. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering because I paused the film and I'm thinking either that is a real tattoo or maybe it was the makeup department. But yeah, sometimes a happy coincidence works. Another definition of grace is undeserved favor. And
Mm,
but again, it's the sauna scene that was so powerful because there's so much dialogue in this film, more than most short films. So,
yeah.
for example, the sauna scene again, was all the dialogue scripted or did you allow the actors to improvise a bit? Because the emotions ran high.
Yeah. Yes. And I wanted that. I wanted it to feel like we were there with them and it to be very emotional. I wanted it to be like the dialogue be intelligent, and I wanted to respect each of the perspectives. So I didn't want any one of them to seem or sound naive, or, I wanted them to all be right in a way, but I also wanted a lot of emotion. And so we did really long takes, so they could kind of improvise a little bit. I gave them like a space for it in the middle of the scene to now you can go and improvise, and then this one, the actor in the corner there can stop all of it by saying, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And so that was a part where there was improvisation. But the other stuff was written and actually very much inspired by this argument that was happening around my dinner table at that time. So I kind of made notes, and I also interviewed a lot of other people about the same topic, and made notes of it. So a lot of the lines are from real life and real conversations that I've had with real people about this. And so I wanted that to be put in to make it not only my perspective or my voice, but many people's voices. And also because it's important to have the argument move on. It's very dialogue based, the action, so it's not as much plot based. So I needed the argument to make sense, moving on. And so it was important to me not to be all improvisation, because I don't think that would work. I wanted all the perspective to come through before having, everything, blow up. And then you could just, and then I could just let them then go and see what happens. So we did so many very, very long takes that were very different, and then we chose one to go with. Yeah.
Well, it was something to see. I can tell you that, because I know that with the film, uh, it kicks off with Guro seeing Peter in the grocery store, and when, of course, she already knew what was going on, and when he invited her for dinner, you feel the uneasiness when he says, "Well, I'll cook," and so that immediately placed her in a dilemma. Do I go to his place by myself? And I love the way that she works her way, and not just coming out to say yes. She says, I'm going to have to look at my calendar," which is the best out you can use. But
Yeah.
she ends up saying yes. But did she say yes out of anger and frustration because of what happened in the sauna?
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit. I think that she feels in when she meets him that she should say yes. She already feels guilty. She knows that he has been through all this and he's struggling with all this, and this is her former like best friend. And they've shared so much, so she feels guilty for not, having reached out to him, called him, and asked how it's going. And so when they meet, by coincidence at the store, so there's like a imbalance in the power, because she feels that she should say sorry and she should, apologize for not reaching out. And so when he asks her to come to dinner, she feels like she should say yes. But she's also a little bit, I'm not quite sure about what the situation actually is. So she waits to say like completely yes, and then she meets all of her friends. And when she tells them about this dinner invitation with Petter, they all attack her and say that she should not, absolutely not go. And the way that they say it provokes her. She gets angry, and that's like the final straw. That's when she says, "Okay, I'll go to the dinner," just to almost like in spite. So
That's what I thought, because and there was a danger in that, because she based, when he first said, "I'd love for you to come to dinner." Well, if it's in an open space at a restaurant, there's already a safety net. But when he
yeah,
said, "I'll cook, you can come over to my place," all of a sudden the look on her face is, "Oh, okay. How am I gonna work with this?" Then the whole argument happens in the sauna. I felt that when she went outside and texted him and said yes, it was based on emotion, not based on, you're not looking at this long term, which we end up seeing what happens later on in the film. So,
yeah,
what makes this so powerful is you have this one central character who is trying to be neutral in this film, which completely brings the balance to the topic. I found it brilliant. and genius, because sometimes I feel like her that when you choose to be Switzerland and everyone else doesn't understand your mindset on certain topics, you get frustrated. And I felt her frustration because she wanted to be objective and not judgmental, but it came back to haunt her.
Yes, yes, it comes back to hunters. I'm saying, like, for me, that situation, she can't win. That's kind of my, if I want to say anything with that, it's that you can't win, because, and everybody loses. Everybody involved in this situation loses. She, almost loses her friendship with, her girlfriends in the sauna. She, is she willing to sacrifice her friendship with Petter? And also, the situation that comes after a while with her colleagues. Is she willing to sacrifice her job to stay friends with Petter? So these are, it's difficult situations to be, get out of this in a good way. And I wanted to put her in an even worse, situation each scene. So you have to sacrifice more and more each scene, just to see what she is willing to do in the end. How far she's willing to go for her friend.
Well, I felt sorry for him.
Yeah,
Um, and because he wanted her support, he feels that he needs someone on his side to believe him, and he desired so much to have an ally. But every character in this film, every single one of their mindsets and every single one of their dialogues, I mean, brilliant. Brilliant on every line, because he's looking for an ally, but the way he looks at it, and in a way, he's looking at it in a selfish way,
yeah,
which shows up in the film. And I understood his mindset, but he should have asked permission before he posted the selfie with her.
yeah. Yes, you should. Yeah, I
You know,
agree. But
go
I
ahead.
understand why. I understand why he does it. He's a desperate man. He is a very desperate man, and so he's just reaching for the straws he can find to both have an ally and also just some self respect, and feel like his normal self and his normal life. We just hang out. He is hanging out with his friend, and it's normal to post a selfie about that, isn't it? And so this is maybe what he thinks when he does it. Uh, and So I understand where it's coming from. And that is also actually something that it's based on a true story that's happened in a story I read about another guy who was accused of rape, and and posted a selfie with a friend of his, and that ended their friendship, because his friend was condemned, like guilt by association, and so yeah, so it's difficult, and this is what happens to
Well,
Guru as well.
you you did something in this film that I really really loved. You maintain the arc from the beginning to the end. You have the grocery store, you have the sauna, you have Peter's place, you have the recording or the music studio. Every single place you created the same dilemma.
Yeah,
And so it was perfectly done, because then, when his lawyer called her, that immediately put her life, career, and reputation on the same level as his.
yeah,
A very tough situation to be in. If she said yes, she makes all the women liars, and women would never forget her betrayal to them, even if the accusations are false. And but I had to agree with her when she said no or hung up.
Yeah.
because that is a no-win situation. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no way. And she was also right in telling the lawyer to get that photo deleted off social media. And the lawyer was pulling the same card because she's like, you know, he needs an ally in this situation, which I understand, But here's the thing. Yes, the more powerful ally would have been a female, not a male, because if he was trying to get someone to back him up, and it was another man, that would have just looked like a boys' club.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess yes. And I think also, many people who see the film come to me after and feel like he is manipulating her from the start. That this is his end game. He wants, he needs someone to be there for him in the trial, be the character witness for him. And so, when they see it, he's like, oh, he is just, he's doing this from the start, and this is his plan when they meet in the grocery store. That's why he invites her to dinner, and nothing of the friendship is real. He just wants something from her. Some people see that, and some people feels like he's just, what is he supposed to do? He needs to have a character witness. That's what you do when you go to trial. You have to do that. So it's so interesting to hear different perspectives on that. I also found it really, to me, it was important that what she is saying to her friends in the sauna, she says to them, this is my friend. I know him as a good guy. I don't know what he did or didn't do with this woman, but I only know that he's been a great friend to me. And that is why I want to support him. I love him, and he's a good guy, and he's always been a good guy, and he's stood up for me. So I should do that for him. And this is interesting because when the lawyer calls her in the end and says, you don't have to take a side in this case, you don't have to, do anything else than get up on that witness stand and tell everyone that he's just a nice guy and you've always, loved him and he's always been a good friend to you. That's all you have to do. And when, it comes from the lawyers, then it's suddenly hard. That makes her, that it's not that easy anymore to do that. It changes something, and also because she might sacrifice her job and her connections and her friendships by doing that. And
Well,
so, yeah, it's interesting that she
well,
has this power behind her in the beginning, and it weakens at the end.
well, you also placed her profession, I'll say, in the entertainment industry. And that is an industry that we all know is full of accusations. I mean, and it can be just as bad as politics. If you want to end someone's career, all you have to do is say something and it doesn't even have to be true.
Yeah, and
And
also even just this photo when he posts it could end her career. People, even her colleagues then say that they don't want to work with her anymore because she's friends with this guy. And so it's again this guilt by association that she hasn't even done anything, wrong, but she might even now sacrifice her or being, her job being taken away from her. So yeah, it's
well,
very vulnerable.
oh, well, yeah, very, very much so. I want to ask you about the ending shot where she goes back into the music studio. She just got off the phone with a lawyer. The camera blurs, signifying that the lines between truth, lies, and justice, well, they're blurred. Even our loyalty to a friend can be blurred as well when certain circumstances aren't clear. Is that why you shot it that way?
Oh wow, I love that. I wish I could say yes to that. I think for me it was important to be very close up to her, and we didn't know exactly where she was going to move because we gave her freedom to move freely with the cinematographer chasing her in a way. And so the blurred part is coincidental, but we were very open to that happening. All can see that all through the film, because for me that also makes it feel more real in a way. It doesn't feel choreographed. Is that the word? It's not. It feels true, almost like a documentary. And I wanted that. I wanted the line between reality and fiction, to be blurred, and also for us to put ourselves in her shoes, to be very close to her in that moment. And
I thought the
uh,
lighting played into the story because in that scene, the lighting is very neutral.
yeah.
So was that particular lighting in the look or the colorization that was done with purpose?
Yes, both the lighting and the locations and everything were chosen to, first of all, have it seem very kind of real and unpolished, and very everyday, like places you go to the store, you go to the in Norway, you go to the sauna all the time with your friends. It's a very like common thing to do. And so I wanted that to be, I wanted the drama to come into her everyday life. I didn't want it to be like very dramatic locations. I wanted it to be dramatic things happening to her in her everyday life, because that is how it is. When these things happen, they happen where you're like shopping for groceries. You get the phone call that something awful has happened to your friend or whatever. That's where things happen. And so I wanted that, and I wanted also it to be neutral in a way that I never wanted to direct people's opinion or dictate what people are supposed to feel and think about her or about the dilemma. I wanted people to figure it out for themselves, what they think is the right thing to do. So we were talked very much about not, there's no music, there's the very neutral cinematography or colors and lighting, and just to have no, I didn't want to put my opinion on out there, like telling people what to think. So yeah, that was a very conscious move. Yeah.
Well, it was done just incredible. Now, how did you cast your film? Because every actor brought a stellar performance to their roles.
Yeah, I mean, the lead character, Guro, is played by Gine Cornelia Pedersen, and she's somewhat famous here, so I knew her from before, and I always also know her a little bit personally. And so when I wrote the film, I really knew that I wanted her from the very beginning.
Hmm.
So I sent her a really early draft, and she read it, and she said yes right away. And that was just amazing. So I didn't even try anyone else, because that's who I wanted for the film. And that was because Gine is a person who is, she's in a way very headstrong and have strong opinions, and can hold her ground in a discussion. But at the same time, she's also very open and open-minded, non-judgmental person, and insists on being that, and also kind of defend, the outsiders. So I knew that I wanted her, and I wanted that quality in the character of Guro. So she was very obvious for me from the very beginning. Petter was more difficult, I would say. I didn't have anyone in mind, and it's a very hard role to play, because he is someone that all in the audience, when they hear the accusations, they will think he is guilty. A lot of people will think right away, this is a guilty man. He's accused of several rapes. He must have done something wrong. And so I needed a guy who could give Petter some humanity and some warmth. And so when I saw Eivind and met him, and Eivind Nilsen Salte, who plays Petter, is such a sweet guy, and really just a very warm person. And he wanted to give that to Petter. And so I felt very right to use him for that role. And he's so brilliant in it, because you kind of, like you also say, you feel for him, and you see his desperation. And that is very important, because I didn't want this classic villain character. That's not interesting to me. I wanted every single one of the characters here to be people, like normal people, complex characters. And so yeah, I wanted that, of course, with Petter as well, also to have us question, did he do it, did he not, or we say guilty, and this switches, all through the movie, and I needed that to be possible as well. So yeah, and all of these friends are just the perfect friend group. I feel like, and these were also a lot of them are people that Guro or Gine Cornelia Pedersen knew from before, which was I think also key to have this very nice dynamic between them. And yeah, and we did a lot of rehearsals to have them get into their, not only their characters but also their standpoints, their viewpoints on the issues, so they could do the improvisation on it as well as like do the script. So yeah, I mean,
Well,
I'm very happy with them all. They're brilliant, I think, all of them.
yeah, and with him, you really built a backstory that makes him look guilty to some, but also makes it difficult for people to think that he's actually innocent. Which I thought was which I thought you played that very, very well, because you made it, I'm not going to say vague, but there was a lot of lingering question marks, because if you looked at it on the surface, you could say he was guilty, or you could look at it thinking like she brought up, are these women setting you up?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you make one of them mad, and then all of her girlfriends have just piled on in this type of situation? And that has happened to people before. So, just because on paper it may look bad doesn't make it true.
No, I agree, and that is also kind of a viewpoint that is difficult to hold these days. So I agree with that, and at the same time, it was important to me not to. You never know during the course of the film if he actually did it or not, and so I just wanted it to be an open question. And I wanted people to decide for themselves. And usually, when we read about these cases in the media, or we hear about them from someone, we don't have all the facts. We don't know what happened, and you really never know what happened because you weren't in the room with the people who is involved in the case when it happened. So I wanted us to have the annoying feeling and not having the whole picture to go on when making a decision, like is she right or wrong to stay with him or leave him. And so yeah, I just wanted to be open and to see whatever people feel like is true to them.
Well, yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I know that when people have seen this film at the film festivals, you got a lot of their opinions, but what were some of the actual questions people would ask you?
The main question is what does he think, the actor of Eivind Nilsen Salte, does he think that Petter is guilty or not? And what did you talk about when preparing for that character? And what I usually say to that is, we had a lot of talks about it. It was important for me that he was open to Petter being both guilty and innocent. And I think the way of doing that, I've been working on this subject matter for a long time, also in documentary. And so I know that people who are accused of such things will, because they feel desperate, like we say, they feel desperate and they are attacked from everywhere. So for them to even consider, having done something wrong, it takes a long time. And it's not an easy task because they're also going maybe into trial where they have to fight for their life. So they're not gonna sit and be open to the possibility of having done something wrong. But that is what everybody around them wants them to do. everybody around them wants them to at least be open to having done something wrong, and that's where you often have the argument, and the mistrust. And that's where he feels very much, isolated, because he's the only one that is, saying, I've never done anything wrong. And people are saying, really, is that even possible? Yeah. So I just found that an interesting place to come from. And when working also with Ivan, in working on the character with him, that he could never, at least not at that time, admit to or even be open to having done anything. And so
Well, yeah,
that's where,
I thought the pictures on the wall in his
yeah,
place,
yeah.
that kind of gives people an uneasy feeling.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, at first, because when the camera panned over, I went, I hope those photos aren't trophies.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so because I was looking at everything, and so to me, everything in a film matters. And
yeah.
you put together a brilliant, stellar film. So, what's it feel like to be Oscar qualified?
Oh, wow. It's absolutely amazing, of course, and it's just, I must admit, a big surprise. Um, Not because I didn't believe in the film, but this is my first short film, like a narrative fiction film. I come from documentaries. This is my first go. And so I hadn't even thought about being Oscar qualified. I just wanted to get the film out into the world and have people see it and talk to them about it. So for me, this is just an exceptional situation to be in, and wonderful and so exciting.
Uh,
Yeah,
it's a fantastic film. And ladies and gentlemen, Hedda Mjøen's Mercy is about a chance encounter in a supermarket with Guro, a woman who sees her estranged best friend, Peter, who stands accused of rape. But Guro is thrust into a harrowing moral dilemma. Should she stand by him, risking her own reputation and sense of self, or sever the tie, abandoning someone she once trusted most? The film's stark, unflinching narrative examines the fragile line between loyalty and judgment, forcing audiences to wrestle with uncomfortable questions about friendship, stigma, and how quickly trust fractures under accusation. Now, Hedda puts the audience right in the middle of what would you sacrifice? Your reputation, your beliefs, your closest bond? What would you do when you're confronted with a friend accused of an unforgivable crime? Well, Hedda wrote and directed a perfect story. This is the first time someone was bold enough to bring a story like this one to life on film. Now, I had the same mindset to look at both sides, but we become rare individuals in today's society when everyone is choosing sides without knowing all the facts. The camera work and cinematography of Mercy places us into each of the characters' mindset. We're watching our own thoughts come into view through each one of them in the film. We feel the confusion, the uneasy feeling, the anger, the grace, the feeling of trying to be subjective when everyone else is yelling to get their point of view across to the others. Now, mercy is pronounced as Noda in Norwegian, but in any language, this film is superb filmmaking. And no wonder it's Oscar qualified. And Hedda, I want to thank you for sharing your emotionally powerful film with me today and placing the audience in their own dilemma to choose sides.
thank you. Thank you for all of your kind words, and thank you for this amazing conversation. I'm so happy to have been chatting with you.
Well, you're very welcome, and much success to you on your Oscar journey.
Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema at all the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.